I'm here. Am I?
This will be ready in less than 10 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to open the January 3rd meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. We'll take roll call first. Jimmy. You're on mute. Ken.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
Teresa. You're muted also, Teresa.
Hi there.
Jim, can you unmute, please? Thank you.
Okay, I'm here.
All right, first up is the approval of the minutes from December 20th. Any corrections? And if not, would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Teresa,
Yes.
Peter,
You're muted, Peter.
Yes, sorry.
Paul,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Jim. Jim,
Yes.
and I also approve those minutes. All right, next up is 14 Sunset Drive, enforcement order update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Attorney Jesse Schomer. I represent the Rosenfields on this matter.
Thank you, Jesse.
I believe your conservation agent, Rebecca Davis, is on the line tonight, so she can perhaps provide a little bit more background. But just to update the commissioners regarding the status of this matter, you may recall that we were before you, I believe it was last spring, with respect to the restoration of some filled wetland area bordering the Saugus River behind 14 Sunset Drive, activity that took place back in the 70s or 80s. It's unclear exactly when. Since we were before you previously, the proposed restoration work, as was outlined in a report prepared by DeRosa Environmental, that work was completed. The plantings were installed as shown on plans, and the fill that was placed behind the property has been removed. My understanding is that Elaine Vreeland was out at the property last week to inspect that and confirm that the work has been done. So the only remaining matter is for us to file a status report just confirming the completion of the work, and I understand from our wetland scientists that will be done by the end of this week.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca, do you have any additional comments or?
Nope, that sounds about right. Elaine, I did speak with Elaine. She said she went out there. Looks like the fill has been removed. The plants have been installed. And she noted the only thing missing was that post construction or wetland restoration document. We've all talked about it. We're expecting it to be coming, but she said she thought it looked good.
Okay, I wasn't this a site where they were supposed to put a gate up?
We had talked about some sort of hedges or I don't know, plantings. I thought to maybe block the entrance to it.
That's my recollection as well, Mr. Chair, that there were some plantings put in place to make sure that vehicles couldn't drive back where they
Oh,
previously
It was,
parked.
it wasn't a rock or something in there. It was, or a fence. It was just the vegetation. I couldn't
I
tell from the
believe so.
pictures because the pictures were taken from one direction. I couldn't see what the other direction was, but if Elaine said it's, all the plantings are in, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, so were there some sort of vegetation, barrier put in front towards that entrance area? I couldn't tell either from the pictures.
That's my understanding. I'll have to just confirm that with the wetland scientist and make sure that that's outlined in his report. But my recollection of the restoration plan was for the plantings to be put in place to block the vehicles from getting back there.
Right, I think we left it open as to what they could be.
Mhm.
Rebecca, do you remember specifically that requirement? Or
I
is it-
don't, I'm reading it now. I'm reading the construction sequence and the wetland restoration plan. Just to see if it was noted in there. Elaine didn't mention that. And she looked over the document as well. Maybe it was in conversation, but it wasn't included in that plan from DeRosa, because it doesn't mention anything about that.
Yeah, I don't think there was any angle of the pictures that would actually allow that area to be seen. I'm
Well,
gonna,
I can look back in the minutes.
okay,
It might take a little bit longer than right now.
yeah,
for
I'm
me
gonna
to look
just
back
take
at
a
all the
quick
minutes.
look at the pictures again. Yeah, all the pictures are taken from that end, it looks like. And none looking back towards the entrance. Yeah. Yeah, I actually see Elaine's shadow where she was standing. That's generally the area that we had talked about.
I don't see that requirement.
Anybody else recollect that conversation that we had on that sidewalk?
Bob, I do not recollect that.
Okay,
Are you questioning whether are we questioning whether the vegetation is there?
yeah,
Or-
well, whether we asked for it or not, I thought we did.
I know he asked for something.
Okay, yeah, we did it right on the sidewalk.
Right, we did it on the sidewalk.
And the angle of the photos, it's not possible to tell if there was anything put there.
Right.
Would it be helpful, Mr. Chair, if I put up the plan as screen share, the restoration?
That would help, please do.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yes,
Should be up. Just to make sure that I'm referring to the correct thing, are we talking about these plantings in this area here?
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
the number 2 plantings,
Okay, it's my understanding that these were installed per this plan, but I'll ask,
Yeah.
I can ask DeRosa to confirm that specifically.
okay, but doesn't that plan also show, isn't that showing a fence there as well?
That may have been existing. I'm not certain about that.
It says
There is a
chain link
chain
fence,
link.
but it's going
There was a
across.
fence out there.
Yeah, there's a chain link fence out there.
Mhm.
Right. But it's going across the opening now, is it not?
I'm not sure. This may have been the wetlands delineation line here.
No,
and
all right,
it
okay.
looks
No,
like
no, it doesn't. You can see the,
Yeah, I see the little X mark there.
yeah, if you watch the legend
Yeah.
of the chain link fence, you can see,
Yeah.
It
looks like
ends.
the X's go in this direction here.
yeah.
Okay,
Well, in any event, I'll have DeRosa confirm that specifically, whether there's a fence or these plantings here, the winter berries.
Okay. Yeah, if those plantings are there, then we could lift, the enforcement.
Excellent. I think that's exactly what we're looking for. So we'll follow up with the commission with DeRosa's report and hopefully have that in by the end of this week.
Excellent. All right, anything else regarding 14 Sunset? Jesse, do you want to get back to Rebecca with that information?
Yes, I will. I'll get back to her later this week.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Looking forward to bringing this matter to a close.
Yes. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're actually a few minutes ahead of schedule. 7:15 is the next topic.
I can tell you that the tree removal or Heron Pond, Elaine is scheduled to go out there this Friday, so we're going to postpone that to the next meeting.
Okay,
Similar to Coolidge Park, there's another tree removal request. Elaine is still trying to get in contact with the homeowner who left a message. I think they've been trading messages, so hopefully that'll be this Friday as well. So both of those will be on the next agenda instead of this one.
okay, thank you. Rebecca, do you have any other old business or other business?
I can tell you that, I think I forwarded it to you guys, but, if the public wanted to know that the conversation regarding the Article 97 land, that has also been postponed until the next meeting.
Right,
Um,
and that was scheduled for 7:30.
yeah,
Anybody here for the 7:30 Article 97 land discussion? It has been postponed until at least the next meeting. And I can announce that again at 7:30.
Bob, can I just mention something about the Conservation Steward Program?
Yes, you are my next.
Okay.
Next one
I
up,
have a
Judy.
meeting with the Environmental Sustainability Land Use Committee tomorrow night,
Okay,
and I think they have a few people that are interested in becoming stewards. So I thought I'd ask them to have them send their information in to Rebecca, and then it could be forwarded to the commission, and you could look it over, and then decisions could be made on that. I'm still waiting to hear back from Tom Mullen about any type of release or anything like that. But I thought we could get the ball rolling, before spring starts, if that's
Right.
what, the commission would
Judy,
like.
can I ask how were those people found? Was it advertised?
I think it was people that knew members of environmental sustainability
I see.
that walk the trails currently. But that was the other thing. I think it should be advertised, it could be
Right.
something on the website. I don't know that it needs to be formally advertised. But I was going to talk to Sherry about that as well.
Great.
If that's what the commission would like.
yeah, that makes sense. All right, anything else, Judy?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, all right, we do have 7:15. Next up is DEP 313322 Millbrook Lane condos status update. regarding a certificate of compliance.
Hello, Commissioners. Ryan Severance here from representing the Millbrook Estates Condominium Board once again. I did send to Rebecca a copy of a proposal from Earthworks to do the excavation of the, what do they call it in their proposal, but to do the digging of the pond cleaning, as they call it, of the retention pond out there to the left of the driveway as you drive into the condo complex. The other thing is that Peter Ogren from Hayes did send along an incomplete as-built plan to Rebecca. It was sent later this afternoon. I don't know if she has seen it or not, but it is there. And Peter and I, and he has the ability to attend the commission's next meeting if you would like to discuss that plan or anything related to it.
Rebecca, is there anything you'd want to discuss regarding that plan?
That plan came in about 10 of 5, so I haven't looked at it. Peter Ogren did mention in the email that he was available for the next meeting. I think they're still trying to figure out, according to his email, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe what he was mentioning was they were just trying to determine what actually has occurred, what type of maintenance has happened, and where it stands now. So it sounds to me like they're trying to get everything organized to ensure that it will hopefully function properly in the future. But like I said, he'll be here on the next meeting, and obviously he would have more information. Like I said, I didn't look at the as-built plan, so I'm not sure what it includes, but I will forward his email to you guys tonight, so you will have it, and obviously any new information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just as a quick another momentary update on that, the particular thing that's been sort of the holdup on the as-built plan is to try to determine, and I'm reading from Peter's email here, so I'm not claiming to have secret code. He's looking for the subsurface infiltration system, which was to have been underneath the parking lot to the side of the condo building. And I will let Peter speak more to that in 2 weeks, but that is what he was really looking for.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll just put you on the agenda for the next meeting.
I do have a quick question. I
Okay, go
just
ahead.
don't want to, or comment, I don't want to forget about that PVC pipe that is through the wall from the parking lot of the condo into the neighbor's yard. I know I bring it up like every meeting. I just don't want to forget about that.
I did mention it to the property manager.
Okay.
I did mention it after the last meeting. I will bring it up again.
Okay, thanks.
I haven't been on site in some time, so I don't know whether it's been modified, changed, anything else. I will address it.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, so Ryan will put you on for January 17th.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
You too. There's a lot of background noise coming from somewhere. I cannot tell where. Anyways, we have about 10 minutes before the next public hearing. Rebecca, do you have anything else you want to go over?
I'm trying to think of things. What about, I don't know if Jimmy knows, but where do we stand with filling the vacant commission position?
I haven't heard anything. I thought when they were, was it in February or something like that? They were gonna be advertising for all these positions.
Yeah, Sherry had sent out an email, I
Mm.
don't remember when, saying that it was going to be advertised. And I think you're right, I think it was February.
Yeah, they closed it was closed to applicants on December 23rd.
Okay,
My understanding was the town council is voting at their January meeting.
Is that what it is? Okay. Thank you.
I could be wrong, but I thought it was mid or late January.
And Haley, you had to formally submit your application, right? And you did.
I did.
But
Yep.
Did Sherry mention anything about associate positions or non-voting positions in her advertisement, or was it
I believe
just?
she did.
I'm sorry?
So I believe she did.
Okay. So we'll just wait to hear from her, and hopefully all of that will be resolved at the next town council meeting in January.
He is technically in the speaker's office right now. You may not say that. He endorsed it. He said, I think Martin deserves a shot. It was a pretty tepid endorsement that came in December. And now I think there's something that's signed on the-
How about, have you guys
He did not.
written up the enforcement order for Anjum Lane?
that's me. No, I have not done that yet, Rebecca. And I was wondering, Rebecca, can you please, I'd love to have a copy of the original order of conditions.
Yes, I can get you that.
And he's holding back in part because he doesn't know where this is going to go. But I will say about how Trump.
The original, not of the sub, do you want the original for the subdivision or the?
Nope, I'm not touching the subdivision one. I'm only touching the lot one.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And are you able to email that to me? You're gonna send it to, how am I gonna get that?
I'm gonna check it out right now, but I believe I have it scanned and then I can just send it to you electronically. Yeah, email.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'll look at that right now.
Jimmy, can you mute your mic? You may be the source of the background noise.
I'm not sure, yeah, it's gotta be somebody from the commission because everybody else is muted. Sounds like a TV.
Jimmy is the only one that's not muted.
You think it's mine?
Yep, I just muted you, Jim. It's you.
You're getting background noise now?
Sounds better. Yep, I think you're good, I think. Yeah.
You
Judy,
still
do you
hear a
have
little
anything
bit,
else?
Jim.
I don't have anything else running.
Okay,
Is it noisy? I don't hear anything.
It sounds like a TV in the background.
I'll shut the door then. Is that any better?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, it was background noise.
On the source.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right, Rebecca, anything else?
Has the commission had any conversations with the planning board about the MBTA overlay zone that they have to come up with? No,
No.
I think it might be a good idea only because Greenwood is obviously going to be an area. So it may be good to collaborate on what the commission would like.
This is about the density of population and buildings within a certain distance to the commuter rail.
Yeah, it's multifamily housing.
Yeah,
And not that you can enact any anything to stop it, but I think having a conversation with the planning board about some of the, the amount of flooding in the areas in Greenwood that they're going to be looking at, things like that for them to be cognizant of when they're reviewing projects. Maybe there could be some collaboration. If they could ask for your feedback on certain things, try to come up with some reasonable developments. Reasonable areas for these to happen, if that's possible.
yeah, it's a good suggestion, Judy. I mean, there certainly are resource areas also between Greenwood and North Ave.
Right,
It could be jurisdictional too.
right. And even if it's not, giving them ideas of even plantings or, trying to come up with different strategies to protect, the areas around.
Right. Speaking of North Ave, the lot next to the KSC, I know that had come before us before, but I think that's before the ZBA right now with a whole new project.
It's a 40B.
Yeah, we haven't been consulted in any way on that at this point. Not on this particular project. There's been prior ones that we were.
I made comments to the ZBA on that.
Okay,
So, twice, actually, I have 2 sets of comments, and there was one initial meeting that I was a part of.
okay, great.
So, they have some ideas. There was some question about whether or not that's intermittent or perennial. And so going through the process, I don't think it's, so the engineering department had given information to suggest it very well could be perennial.
I thought we had already concluded that, and that is the primary infeed to Quannapowitt.
Yeah, so from what I understand, the applicant has received that information and they have information to suggest that it's intermittent. I have not seen that, and I suppose they don't really have to submit it until they come before the commission anyway, but I have made the comment that in the event that it is determined to be perennial and that it would have more restrictions and they would have to meet the riverfront standards. So I don't know what information they have to suggest it's intermittent. So I guess we'll just wait and see, but all of that is out there. I sometimes get comments from, or I get requests for comments from the ZBA. As a matter of fact, I did 3 of them today. I don't always tell you about them. 2 of them were non-jurisdictional. One of them already has an order of conditions with us. So I just relay that information along with some of the conditions. So sometimes I do get them. I can.
Rebecca, can I just ask you that when you do that, we'd appreciate, at least I would appreciate knowing that. So maybe you can just forward that to us so we know what's going on.
I can do my absolute best to try to remember that. Let me just set. So you guys want a copy of all comments I make to the ZBA?
I think it's helpful us to know what you're commenting on. How do
I
others?
think you might have
know?
asked that before. So I'm sorry if I didn't do it. I will try to make that a habit. It's not a current habit. So if I forget, remind me and I'll just try to make a new habit. a lot. Do you also want the ones that are just non-jurisdictional? For instance, I get a bunch of them. Like I said, I did 3 of them today. And they're just non-jurisdictional. Do you want those as well?
I don't think that's
Yeah, at least I
necessary.
don't, just the
Okay.
ones that are jurisdictional, right?
Just have that something that I write some, all right, so let me ask you the next question. So sometimes they're non-jurisdictional, however, I comment because some of the drainage, for instance, there was like an apartment building and it's not within your 100-foot buffer zone type of situation. However, I did comment that I would request that they consider what type of like pesticides and herbicide they use in the landscaping, because if it runs over land, it will discharge into the street. The street goes obviously directly into the catch basin, and the catch basin then discharges to the Mill River. So I just draw out for them that connection and just point out that exists. Now, it's still non-jurisdictional. However, like I said, I just indicate that there can be a direct connection to the river. So do you want that as well? So that's a gray area because it's non-jurisdictional. However, I do make comments.
Right.
More than,
I would suggest anything you make substantive comments to, I would be interested in hearing about it.
Becky, you either have a ghost in your room or the dog's trying to get to see you.
wait, could you see him?
I see the door opening, and so it's got to be the dog.
Yeah, he's right there. Sorry.
Hey, I do
Okay.
want to announce, it is 7:32, that the Article 97 conversation has been continued at this point until January 17th. So there will not be any discussion tonight regarding Article 97 land discussion. If there's anybody here for that?
So sorry about all that lag time. This is the hazard of setting sometimes the timing, the time for the agenda. Sometimes we go over, and I prefer to go over than this situation. But we
Right.
didn't receive the, I think I forwarded it to you guys, so I didn't know that we were postponing this until this afternoon. Obviously, too late to change anything.
Yeah, and typically 15 minutes is really the appropriate break, because if we go over, we go over, but now we're in this situation.
All
with the
right.
lag. 95% of the time it works out perfect.
Yeah, I just figured, yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about or go over, Rebecca?
I'm running out of things. Open space plan is still moving along. I'm still trying to work on it. And I have to admit, I haven't had time to do this, but hiring someone to go through the deeds for all those parcels that we received through tax title process. So that is, I'm supposed to try to get some quotes on that. And I haven't, there's one person who's responded every time, but I haven't been super successful. But I must admit that I've been bogged down with a few other things. So that's still hanging around. Hopefully I'll get to that within the next
Do you
couple
have do you have a budget for that, Rebecca?
Yes, I do. So I think it's about 82 parcels. I think that's what it is.
And what's the budget amount for that?
I think it's around 25,000, I think.
To review the 82,
Yes,
review title on the 82 parcels, okay.
yeah, I think that's what it is. Off the top of my head. So that's the town council approved that. So I'm trying to work on that a little bit. Open space plan is still plodding along.
Where are they with that? Where are they with that?
Information gathering. They've spoken to numerous departments and they've had meetings trying to gather up all not only the information, but also, I guess more or less just the information. So I don't know, Judy, do you have anything more on that? I haven't heard from them this week, but it's been a holiday.
No, the last thing they're working on is the ADA requirements. They're going out to all the playgrounds, parks, and any open space areas that are mapped. And they're also working on updating all the mapping. So they're projecting February for the next public meeting, because they're trying to not interfere with the master plan meetings. So they're trying to work around that as well, so people don't get burned out on that. And Fisheries and Wildlife's just updated the biomap. So I just sent you all a link. Pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, just got it.
And this update talks about biodiversity and climate resilience as well. You know, they've updated some of the strategies.
All right, we've got about 7 minutes.
Mass Wildlife also has a grant program for habitat management program. So that might be something the commission wants to look at.
Is there someone at Public Works who looks at the grants? Like, I think it was Claire who used to do it.
No,
Is that
I
a
know-
gap with the town planner type of thing?
yeah, I know Erin has done some grant writing, but not much. Yeah, and Paul Revis did some, but it was all planning based. It wasn't, it wasn't a very broad scope. The town did have they used to have a grant writer that was more broad based, but that position is gone. But I think maybe part of the open space, the consultants, they may be a good resource for guiding towards which grants would be the best, the easiest to be awarded to Wakefield, and for the purposes, how to word it the best possible way. That's what I'm hoping for, that they'd be able to provide some guidance.
There's
And then-
a lot of them available, that's for sure.
There are a ton. And the MVP grants as well. I know the town has gotten that, and it talks a lot about sustainability and climate resilience. So I think that's another area that would be good for the commission to jump in on. And I know Bill Renault is active with that.
I've seen a little bit of the rail to trail plans. Just some early sketches. I can't remember if I told you guys about this or we talked about it at all, but we're hoping on one of the parcels to get a type of like outdoor art installation. Judy and I have talked about it a fair amount. So met with Bill Renault and Erin and talked about that a little bit, and it seems like everyone's sort of on board with that. So trying to get some ideas together of what that would look like, and then we'll send it over to Bill. That should be interesting. So they have some preliminary plans. They've got some areas mapped out for parking along the trail area for,
Part of the, what part of the trail is this talking about, Rebecca? What section is it?
between, was it between Water and Richardson? That section in there?
Okay,
There's a town-owned property, there's town-owned property there, adjacent to what would be the trail. And so they're gonna use some of that for parking on either end, so on Water and I think it's Richardson.
yeah,
This way. And so there'll be parking, and so we
Right.
were looking at some of that space in between. Maybe, and that parcel is adjacent to where the rail to trail will be. So they're gonna take the two of it, makes parking here, trail, and then we're looking at maybe some type of outdoor art installation or walk through garden or something to that effect to add along the edge of the trail. Could be interesting.
yeah.
So that would be pretty much across from the junior high school, right?
Yes. Yep.
Right. That section's already done, right? As far as the paving goes and all that?
I haven't been there. I have to
Or
walk
is
it.
that the,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that
you
is
know,
all paved.
It would
It is
be
all
the
done.
other end of it, right, so that's not done. Yeah, that may look good.
Yeah. Kind of neat.
Hmm. That's good.
Did Linfield get all their approvals and everything, or is that still tied up?
I don't know. It sounds like Wakefield is separating their project from the Linfield project as opposed to trying to make it one larger, all-inclusive. It sounds to me like Wakefield's just taking care of their pieces. It currently stops up around Foster's Lane. They don't have any plans. I don't know if there'll be plans in the future, but I haven't seen any existing plans to go further north than that.
Linfield hasn't even started their wetland permitting, so I think they're a ways out.
Okay. Yeah, that'll have to come before you guys at some point for pieces of it.
Yeah. We got a little less than 2 minutes left. 2-minute warning. Okay, I've got 7:45. Next up, DEP 313620, 100 Hemlock Road, Northeast Metro Regional Vocational School. Is the applicant here?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, David Conway for the applicant. Hope everyone enjoyed their holidays. Just a kind of quick update from where we were last time and what we hope to kind of cover tonight was just a Just a quick review of the site plan. As I mentioned last time we met, we're working towards resubmitting all the plans and supporting materials with response letters, with, targeting to get those in for the Thursday before the next meeting. So just some ground we wanted to cover tonight is just show you the site plan as it is today. It really hasn't, what we're going to show you is really what you've seen at the last meeting, is just more confidence as far as like the limits of work and the limits of the grading and roadway alignments and infrastructure. And then some other pieces we were hoping to cover was, there was a request from the last meeting for the landscape architect to maybe go over a particular area of the photometrics in a little bit more detail. He's got a nice rendered site plan, which he might use as part of his discussion. And he'll also talk over maybe some of the tree protection zones, and along with LEC, maybe in tandem, they'll be talking about some of the mitigation measures that we are working to incorporate into the revised plan, which includes invasive removals. We need to come up with a proper term for it, but it's basically a barrier for the amphibians, and some invasive species removal and some other mitigation areas kind of along to try to, for added mitigation. So if that sounds fine, I can start. My part will probably be fairly brief. And then I can hand it off to Josh and Andrea from LEC. Or Matt too, I think.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. So, sorry. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this is the site plan as it currently stands. No huge movement, but we have been doing a lot of work to make sure the alignment, the limits of the limit of work, and everything works and it can deliver what we've been promising. Kind of working in from Farm Road, we have the new driveway with a sidewalk on one side, ledge cut on the other. It has some nice geometry to move it between the wetlands. Coming up to our first wildlife crossing. Some walls to hold back some of the grading. A second wildlife crossing with more walls to limit any taking of wetland 3, overflows from 4 to 3 as we've discussed, and then kind of moving through the rest of the site. What we've seen before is parking lot, school. Moving down the site, it doesn't show up on this, but we've been doing a lot of work to make sure we're really working hard to kind of balance what's going to which particular wetland, looking at them all kind of individually. And along those lines, we submitted on Thursday, basically this plan, which will be divided up. This is the existing conditions plan and the areas that offsite that contribute to our site that we're are including in our calculations. This will be divided up into a drainage map of design points for all the wetlands, and then from that there'll be takeoffs for the different types of area covers, which actually on the proposed condition would probably be of more interest to people. They both need to be right no matter what, but which would show like contributing areas going to the different wetlands, and what those materials are: impervious, roof, roadway, landscape, existing woods, etc. Let me check my cheat sheet as far as the issues I was meant to cover. Oh, and also I didn't mention it, but just obviously we're going to be providing reply to the written response to the comments, which I think we have the peer review comments, but then we also have some comments and written comments from some of the board members and some of the public, which we'll work to incorporate all in one document. So basically, either discussing what our answer is to the question or where to find the answer on the plans and supporting materials. Probably also with telling what it is. And also included in that, we're going to be cutting some key sections. I think that was one of the requests from one of the commissioners for different areas to really get a good feel so you can see the impacts and the changes. Mostly, we'll look at the specifics, but it was really through the kind of the more critical areas of like the wetland, wildlife crossings, and I think maybe where we're closest to the wetlands. So we can really we can show what's there now, what's being proposed, where we stop work, and what mitigation measures are being proposed, kind of like a cross section through. But it'll also be shown as on plan. So that being said, I was going to move it along to Josh from Warner Larson to maybe go over his photometrics and then walk through his pieces.
Hey, David, before you do that question, I see a note, limit of work typical. Is there a limit of work line on the plan somewhere that we haven't seen before? Or
we've had a limit of work on all our plans.
Okay.
And there'll be one on the future, right? So that we can, which is on my plans, it shows up as kind of this.
Okay.
And then, not to spoil it for you, and what we got to make sure we're reconciling is there's areas. Obviously, this limit of work is associated with the driveway, right? But we're going to probably come into some of these, like this area, or we would propose to if the commission and the consultant thinks it's a good idea, and say remove some invasive species and do some restoration. So then we'll put a limit of work along this area. Maybe it gets quantified as this is an area of work, but there's no vehicles, no, it's maybe it's hand, however we decide to do that. Okay. But yeah, there'll be a limit of work on all the plans. Josh is. So that being said, I don't know if you want to have any questions for me. I'm not going anywhere. And then we could, I can just move it on to Josh to kind of start with his piece.
Yeah, one question, Dave. One question.
Sure.
With that blue line that you were showing on the other drawing, was that the limit of the drainage areas total when you had it all colored in? So the blue, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually just closed the existing one by accident, but this is the limit of the drainage areas.
Okay, the blue line all the way around.
Yeah. So if you see, this is the black line is the property line.
Yeah. In some places it's the same.
A lot of places it's the same because just the way they cut the property, it's almost like they cut it for like a watershed.
Yeah.
And then this is the big piece which we've kind of mapped and walked, and then how we divided this up we'll show you next week. We actually spent a good amount of time trying to figure out exactly how this is all broken up.
Okay. Yep.
So again, so I'm not going anywhere, but if you have any other questions kind of on this piece or what's to come, and then or if something pops your head, just give me a shout. And if not, we can just maybe ask Josh to start.
Yes, please go ahead, Josh.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Dave. Good evening, everybody. I'm Josh Milanek with Warner Larson Landscape Architect on the project. Let me just move some windows around. I'll share my screen. Hopefully this works better than it did last time. It kept kicking me off.
I've got your stuff too, I think, Josh, in case you run into problems.
Yeah, let's see if this works this time. And not kick me off. Can everybody see the overall site plan?
Not yet.
Nothing.
Okay.
Which one would you pull up first, Josh?
I was just going to pull up the overall site rendering plan. I don't know if that's.
Here, let me share, and then you can walk me through it.
All right, Dave. I'm having the same issue. It just punted me off. If Dave.
That one?
Yeah, this is just kind of a quick overall site. I was just gonna kind of zoom in over on the Farm Street to show kind of how the road kind of slaloms through and give people a better sense of on that north side of the road and a little bit of a darker gray, that's the sidewalk. And then some of the lighter grays as we kind of get past the sidewalk, those are kind of our riprap fill slopes that we're just trying to quickly meet and match existing grade in there. And you can kind of see in a little bit better areas where Dave was mentioning some of these culvert overpasses for the amphibians to get through. We have these wing walls, and in between some of these wing walls, we're kind of using some more crushed stone and riprap. And then as we get further to the east, this is where we really start to put in some larger retaining walls to really kind of limit the amount of impact that we have on wetlands. What is it, 2 and 3? And then that's
3 and 4.
So 3 and 4. So I just wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed. Sometimes it's nicer just to see kind of a nice color plan. I'm not sure how, if everybody can read black and white plans, typically the architects, yeah, we can visualize those, but sometimes it's nicer to see a quick colored plan. So we have the wetlands in blue, and then the dash line is the 25-foot buffer that we have on there. So that just kind of gives everybody kind of a sense of how close we are to these areas.
And as part of the materials we're providing will be updated figures from that where we're showing. And when we did this a couple of meetings ago, provided it, but we'll update it to make sure it's current. Each area in the 25 and then the 75 to 100, that what it is now and what it will be in the future, or being proposed to be in the future. And that we have it like quantified on an Excel spreadsheet and then graphically shown so it can be verified.
I think, Dave, if we can jump to my photometric plan, the LT 101, if you have that open. So we've gotten the photometrics run, and we have the calculations here. So as we kind of zoom in, as I previously mentioned before, there's a lot of 0.0s. It's a 10-foot, I believe, grid that the photometrics come on. So the zeros are just as we can calculate 0 light or 0-foot candles. It's not calculable. So those are kind of shown in the gray. And then as we get where we do have light, so the 0.1 or the 1.3 or the 0.9, those type of things, that's where we are measuring. So those are calculated from our lighting vendor. So as again, just quick brief overview again, roadway lights and parking lot lights, those are on 25-foot tall poles. They're all LED fixtures. If you can look real close on there, this particular light fixture has an MH of 24, so it's 24-foot pole. But the EXP1 and then has a BC, so that's a backside shield that's on those. So the lights that are along this from Farm Street, kind of basically up to the school, we have shields on those to really limit the amount of light that gets kind of spilled behind it. So you can see where this light pole symbol is. And then as we go closer to the red, which is the 25-foot wetland buffer, right at that edge, we're at 0.1 foot candles. And as by the time we get to the next grid point, we're at 0. So these are kind of the areas where it's kind of the worst case scenario. We have a couple, I think the next one further kind of up towards the school. Dave would be another where we have another light. And this is where these are kind of our worst case scenarios of how much light that we're spilling into wetland 1. So these backside shields really kind of help out. So we're kind of just dancing along that 25-foot buffer where we have some measurable light that we can calculate out.
And Josh, what were the degrees Kelvin that these lights would be?
These ones, I believe last time we talked about them, we wanted to go with the warmer in the 3000 Kelvin range.
Correct.
So we can change that. That's just a simple specification kind of tick when we're going through kind of, they give you a whole, it's almost like an a la carte list and you start clicking all these things. We can ask for a warmer light. Again, I do want to kind of coordinate back with the security cameras, sometimes with a warmer light in 3200, sometimes color. This goes back to security, and when we have the cameras, if you don't have as good of coloring rendering capabilities, and sometimes it really depends on the cameras that are picking them up. You know, sometimes a blue or a red or a different type of color will look the same under this particular, if it gets too warm. So that's why a lot of times you see more of the whiter lights in parking lots and things like that. It gets better. You can tell the difference of colors as you're walking through there. So I would just like to confirm back with the security on the team. I don't expect it to have a big issue if we go in the 3500, a little bit of a warmer color, but that would be just another follow-up that I would have with the security team.
Would there be cameras down on that part of the driveway?
I'm not exactly sure where all the cameras are.
Okay.
But I know the school is cameraed. I don't know if they have cameras this far down. They might have some cameras that are aimed down the road just to make sure, you know, just to grab a picture if somebody's ripping through, you know, taking a shortcut or something like that. They can at least. It's more
Yeah, I
about
know
grabbing
they're-
license plates, you know, types of things. They
Right.
might shoot one down, but
Yeah, at the gate, I know they're grabbing the plates, and the perimeter of the current building has, you know.
Yep.
cameras.
I have to double check back in exactly where the camera and security kind of are. And where
I
they
believe there was a question that somebody asked about the possibility of dimming these particular lights near the wetlands at a certain time.
Yeah, I believe we did talk about that during the last meeting. And again, this would go back to security and to see what their minimum light requirements are for their cameras. Otherwise, you know, if it goes to half power, it might be the same as going to zero. Like, you know, the cameras become inoperable. You can't see anything. It's too dim. So again, for security reasons and things like that, I would need to confirm back with the security on the feasibility of going down to lower. And then also, I don't know if the town has any opinions on minimum foot candles along their sidewalks. If they require a half-foot candle minimum type of things, if we're providing a public connection from the school to a public way, your town may have minimum standards that we need to meet. So that would be a follow-up that we would have to double check. Right now, we are providing a half-a-foot candle on the pedestrian routes. That's kind of our target right now. And that was what was kind of recommended to us by our lighting consultant. That's what they typically see in more of these. You know, we're still kind of an urban environment. We're not quite rural, kind of suburban areas. Half-a-foot candle is kind of a target that we'd like to illuminate to. That's the minimum standard.
And with that spacing, you're getting that minimum of half-a-foot candle?
Yep. Yeah, you can kind of zoom in
Yeah.
between these two light poles. You have
Okay,
a
yeah.
point,
I see it.
0.8 or 0.6, you know,
Yeah.
that 0.3. I mean, that's 5 feet off of the back sidewalk. So yes, so we have, I believe they can calculate the average. And then also, it's not so much about the minimum. You know, we also like to take into account the difference between the maximum and the minimum. So you don't get these really bright hot spots.
Right.
As you can see, we have a fairly even distribution of light. They're in the ones, and you have a couple, you know, 2.3s as you get closer to a light, or you get the additive light from 2 light fixtures. You know, so you don't have these really bright 10-foot candle areas, a half-a-foot candle areas. It's a nice, even kind of spread of light.
Could you scroll to where the first wildlife crossing is? Just so we can kind of look at the light in that area.
That's sheet 2, right, Josh?
Yes, that would be off. Yeah, it'd be on the 102 next sheet. Down on that left side. So again, in these areas, the wetlands actually are further away from the road in here. So as you know, the light's not really reaching into wetland 1. we're getting a little more illumination across the road, and that's just the physics of, you know, light beams being kind of projected across. You kind of have to throw the light, so to speak, across the road to light that up. You have a little less control. That's one of the reasons why we put all the light poles closer to the wetlands, because we can shield them much easier. We can control the light a lot better the closer we are to the light pole.
Right, I can see at that first crossing, you're actually at 0 right as it goes under the road, just about, yeah.
Yep. So right down that little gully in between the two wing walls, we're at zeros. You know, we've got 2 light poles on either side of it, and we're at, you know, 0.3. You know, right at the property line, we're not spilling light across the property line. I believe that's one of the town regulations, is to limit spill across in your neighbor's property. We're meeting that requirement there.
Does the density of the vegetation around these areas present any kind of an issue with the light? Is that taken into account when you do this grid?
You really
pattern?
can't. Yeah, I don't believe there's a variable that the lighting people can use to calculate kind of where light is. I think
Well,
that
this is really like it was a open, you know, no it's like there's nothing there, just lights.
right. It's no topography. It's you know, in virtual reality where they run these things, it's a flat site with no topography on, you know, up or down on these things.
So
Yeah.
any canopy is going to further reduce the light into the areas off the road.
Correct. Yes. Depending on what type of vegetation is, obviously, if you have deciduous trees in the summertime when they're fully leafed out, you'd have less light
Right.
traveling into the forest versus wintertime when it's all open. Or if it's a stand of white pines, which may be living along the power lines and break heart, you know, you'd get a little more a blocking of light from going out. But
So these take into account the 20-foot poles, but they don't take into account like the third 3D dimensions, the topography of the land and the on the ground,
that is correct,
right, Josh?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah,
So
this
that
is worst case scenario.
And so that was kind of my question or my comment, is that a good example would be this crossing, which is very much below grade. Will actually be, it won't be 0.3, it will be dark because the light.
It's in shadow.
It will be in shadow. Thank you.
Yep, it's in shadow. There's a wall there. It's significantly below road height. So yeah, in reality, it's going to be, but we just, the calculation software just doesn't have that variable available to put in topography.
Yeah, it's working in a 2D world with no vegetation.
Yep, it's just a flat virtual plane running the calculations. It does know how high the light is. It does know that it's 24 feet, and then it can calculate the light kind of the throw of it, and so that's how it calculates it out.
Can you work your way to the next crossing? Yeah, thank you.
So again, this would be a similar situation where it says 0.2 kind of right below the blue and the wetland flags. Likely that's going to be 0 because again, we have walls there and this is a culvert. That's, you know, I don't know how tall it is, Dave. I don't know what the distance from road to, you know, to 39.
It's a good distance down.
Yeah. So.
David, do we have details yet on those proposed crossings?
Yeah, not to share tonight, but we do. And these are where I'll cut the sections too.
Yeah, okay.
I was looking at them today and I just can't exactly remember, but this one is, I think, the base of it is 130. It's at grade, so
139,
139, I want to say. So it's like 6 feet down. So it's like a 4 foot high crossing with 2 feet of stuff on top.
Dave, the ground level is approximately 139 and the roadway level is approximately 146.5. So about 7.5 feet total.
Yep.
And with the thickness of the road and everything else, the actual clearance inside would be approximately what page, do you know? Is it 4 feet?
Approximately 5 feet if the road thickness is about 2 feet.
Okay,
But we're still fine tuning the detail, but we're aiming everything to be a minimum of 3 feet or greater.
right. I mean, we'd want even large mammals to be able to get through there.
I believe that's all I have for the photometrics. These are kind of our worst case scenarios. And these, as we move further into the site, we start getting away from wetlands and, you know, again, we're at 0 at the property lines. So yeah, I kind of just focused on these two from kind of this west side of the site. Any questions on photometrics or
I'm all
follow-ups?
I'm all set. There were, Rebecca, were there any other questions that we had concerning lighting plan that haven't been answered?
Let me look. I think we have like an ongoing list of
I think in your email with the list of, questions, maybe that's where I saw it, or maybe in the minutes. I don't remember.
have that and have that.
You know, it looks like the lighting plan has certainly been well thought out.
I hope you asked about the dimmers. That was one of the questions. You talked about the.
Kind of asked for the dimmers. I know it was mentioned that you would check with the security folks, and that was mentioned last meeting too. So I guess it'd be helpful if the next meeting you have a response from the security folks.
Yeah, I think now that everybody's kind of past the holidays and everybody's kind of back in, you know, we should be at full steam with all the team members. So we should be able to at least get that ball rolling.
Sorry to interrupt you, Rebecca, sorry.
Yeah. Anything else, Rebecca?
Not on
Any
the
other
light.
questions from the commission regarding the lighting plan? I do see a hand raised. Christine, do you have a question regarding the lighting plan?
Yes, I do. I just wondered, perhaps you said it
Oh, hey,
already and
sorry.
I might have.
Just
Oh,
please. for the
sorry,
record,
Christine.
Yep,
Woodland Road, Wakefield.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. You might have said it, I might have missed it. What is the wattage on those lights or lumens, either one?
So we're going by degrees Kelvin.
Well, that's
they're
another
LED.
factor. That's a separate factor.
Yeah, so they're LED. So you want to know how many watts they are?
Wattage or lumens, yep. That's also
Okay.
important.
Yeah, I do not have that readily available, I should say. I can get it. We do have the fixtures selected. They've picked the wattages on them to be able. That's part of the variables that they need to plug in to run the calculations. So those are available. I just don't have them at my fingertips to share right now.
Can you have that for next meeting, Josh?
Yep, we can have that.
All right,
Yeah, we can add that as like a written response.
okay.
Yeah, we have a whole site plan with all the photometrics. Unfortunately, they can't put the survey under it. So I've had to kind of do a little bit of work on my end to kind of combine what I get from the lighting rep and what our design is to be able to present this and show you kind of where the wetlands are in relation to the lights. But on that photometric plan that we have from the lighting rep, they do list out, they have a light table, schedule, here are your fixtures and, you know, wattages and all that technical information will be on that sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No, because I know in my neighborhood, when they put in the LEDs, they came back and dialed down the wattage because it was really overkill. So you know, with LEDs, of course, it's much lower wattage anyway, but
Yes.
it was something that the gas and light department did. So I'm curious about that. So thank you.
Okay. Yep. Mhm.
Bob Brooks, you have your hand raised. You have a question concerning the lighting plan?
Yes, Bob Brooks, June Circle. A question to Josh on this. On this diagram, can you go more towards Farm Street area?
Yep. Looks like
Okay.
Dave jumped back onto that other. Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. What as far as lighting would be put on that area and where it comes out to Farm Street, is this anticipating there's going to be lights, or is this the drawing for the anticipation of a roundabout?
So we have two light fixtures on either side of the neck kind of coming out. Dave's highlighted them right there. So that's going to provide good for drivability, right? It provides enough light that drivers can kind of navigate this intersection. Currently, right now, I defer back to the traffic engineer.
It's a T intersection with a traffic light.
Okay. So there's just what? There's just one on each side?
To frame the entrance, correct.
Okay,
Correct.
there won't be any on Farm Street.
We're not
No.
proposing any. I mean, if the town
Okay.
decides to do improvements,
Okay.
but
Now,
that's,
will those be on throughout the night, or are they just during times when the school will be open?
The traffic lights or the
No,
roadway
those lights, those lights there, the same as the ones that are on the upper part of the roadway.
These would be on the same timer. These would be on, you know, when light is required. I believe they have a photo cell on top of them, so they can automatically turn on just when the sun goes down, as it changes throughout the seasons. So they automatically turn on and then turn off when the sun kind of comes back up.
Okay, so they would be either very dim during the nighttime or off?
Potentially, yeah. I think we talked about this a little bit ago about the feasibility of dimming these lights if we can or can't. These ones, I would probably recommend that these would stay full power during the night, just for vehicular safety. Coming to an intersection with the proper amount of light just makes good safety sense if somebody's either driving in or driving out of the property.
It
And
does
as
look
far as-
like they both have back shields on them. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. If you zoom in again, where it says
Yeah.
BC, so it says EX-P1, the BC stands for a back shield. So a
Yeah, and
house
you
side
can
shield.
see
So,
that there's no light spillage, in back.
yeah. If you look real close at them, I did a quick calculation. It's like 11 or 12 feet behind the fixture is when we hit zeros with that shield on there. So they do a really good job of controlling
Well,
the
as
light
far
behind.
as that one that we're looking on this side of the road here,
Mhm.
that would have a back shield on the back side of it with the light
Correct.
facing the road.
Yes.
And what would the reason I'm trying to ask this question reasonably. I live on June Circle.
Mhm.
How much light would actually carry all the way to June Circle? If it's on the backside, am I going to get a full blast of light?
You should not. June Circle is
About
couple hundred feet.
About approximately 275, 300 feet.
a couple hundred feet. Yeah, you should not be able to see the light fixture, the light, what do they call it? The LED diodes. That's the technical term of where the light comes from, the little kind of pin diodes. With that backside shield, I believe it's 6 inches down. It's a big piece of metal. But it does a good job of shielding light. So you should not be having any light shining in. You can see we're at the ground level, we're calculating 0-foot candles, so it's not measurable on the ground.
Okay.
Is the orientation of the back shield adjustable? Or how does that work?
That I am not sure if it is adjustable. I would imagine they they could trim them. I don't know exactly how the shields get mounted to the light fixture. You know, there might just be 2 bolts and you put it there and that's the only place to put it, or maybe you can rotate it. I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is
follow
Kevin
up.
from PMA.
Yes, Kevin.
These type of questions, we can get details from the manufacturer's rep. There are different types of shields. I would ask though that this type of questioning, and if it's going to come up at the next meeting, if we could please get these in writing so that we can answer them properly, that'd be a great help.
Okay.
Thanks, Evan.
All right. Let's see. Bronwyn,
And
you
just
had-
to, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify one
Yeah.
step further, and I see Kev, you still have your hand up, but that might be an accident. And I think he meant in advance of the next meeting, so that we can, have the answers and bring them to you for that next meeting.
Yes, Joe, because this isn't the first time we're discussing the lights, and we could have been more prepared had we known the questions. I didn't know there would be a debate back and forth. Not that they're not a constructive debate. Thank you for the questions, but if we can get them in advance, we can be prepared with the answers.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to anticipate the questions, and we think of things as we look at it again. We can certainly forward the minutes to you, which would have, the questions that have been raised.
Yeah, it's understood that the committees typically have questions back and forth with our engineers, but I guess some of us aren't used to the back and forth with non-committee members.
Normally I do hold it to the end, but in this case,
Thank you.
the topic was right in front of us and we're about to move on.
Sure.
It made
Okay.
sense to address some
I
of them.
defer to you, Mr. Chairman. It's going fine. Thank you.
I do see one more hand raised. Bronwyn, do you have a question?
Hi, yes, so Brahman Delavolpe 8 Cyrus Street. Light and light pollution is a major factor for me, and some of the questions previously did answer some of my questions. On the roadway, are the poles going to be 25 or 20 feet, or will there be a mix of both?
Along the roadway, so we have a mounting height, that MH is the mounting height of 24. I believe that is a 24-foot pole. Poles come in 2-foot chunks, so it's a 24-foot pole, and then on, the fixture sits on top of it, so it might be another foot up. So I think that your lamps or the LED is going to be around 25 feet above the roadway.
Okay, can you just briefly run down why the poles are so high?
The higher the poles, the further we can spread them out, and therefore we can use less light poles overall. It just gives a better, a more even light kind of distribution. If we go with the higher poles, it's a more of efficient layout than trying to sprinkle in, doubling the amount of poles to bring them down to, let's say 12-foot or 14-foot mounting height.
Thank you. That's my understanding of it as well. So my question is, because we're working with such sensitive area, is there any reason why that we can't go with lower poles? We'd have more lights, but I do believe that there would be more control and a lot less light spill. Is there any reason why that can't be done?
I don't know if that would necessarily give us more control over the lights, to be honest with you. I'd have to see if that would be even possible. It might not make a difference if we went with a lot more poles, but bring them closer to the ground. I would have to consult with the lighting rep manufacturer to see if that's the case.
That would be great if we could get a little bit of information on that the next time. I do appreciate very much the back shields, but having had some experience with those, it depends on what kind of shield and what kind of light fixture you're going to be using. And someone mentioned getting some examples or renderings or actual illustrations of the fixtures and the back shields from the manufacturer, and that and the specific name of the fixture would be really, really helpful for those of us who are interested in that sort of thing. One question is, if someone were standing in the wetlands and you're looking towards the roadway, you would be able to see the lights. Is that correct?
You talking, you'd be able to see the light fixtures, like where the light's
You'd
coming
be
from?
able to see the light emanating from the fixture.
I'm not sure if that would be the case. Right now, we're calculating at ground level 0.0 foot candles of light coming down there. Would you be able
Okay.
to see the glow of the light? Probably, yes. But I don't know if you would be able to see the fixtures themselves.
Well, okay, yeah, all right. So maybe not the fixture, but you would be able to see light.
Yes.
Okay, I'm concerned about that. There may be nothing you can do about that. Light is supposed to be going downwards, as you know far better than I do, not outwards. So that's why I'm asking if it's better to put shorter poles and maybe more lights so that the light goes where you want it and not where you don't want it. So, anyway, if we could get a little more information and some visuals on that for the next time, that would be great. And one final question. This might be a little tricky, but are you, do you know, through you, Mr. Chairman, does anyone know of an example in Wakefield of similar lights with some similar warmer coloring with shields that we could go look at to see what they sort of is anyone familiar with that?
We have
Anything
had
in existence now that we could go look at?
We have had projects in the past that we have requested, light in that warm Kelvin range and shields. I can't off the top of my head remember where. I think the head of the lake is one of the projects where that lighting will be present. There may have been apartments on Audubon Road, I believe, that we have a similar type of lighting, but I cannot tell you with 100% certainty that that's the case.
I understand. Thank you. If you or any of the other committee members happen to think of something that might be similar that people could go take a look at, if you think of it later on, if you could let me know, I'd really appreciate that very much. And I appreciate everyone's due diligence on light, because light pollution is not only bad for people, it's bad for animals and even plants. So please just keep that in mind as we move forward. And thank you very much for taking questions.
Thank you. I don't know whose hand was up next. I think it may have been Jennifer. Jennifer, do you have a question concerning the lighting plan?
I do. Jennifer Fanning, 4 Pheasantwood Drive in Wakefield. This may be a question that requires kind of follow-up from someone with a more environmental background, but my question has to do with, the effects of, what are the effects of the lighting, or the effects that lighting tends to have on, bat populations, which I know there are bats living in and around the NEMT forest. You can see them flying around, and they're supposed to be a kind of a marker of a healthy ecosystem, and help manage mosquito populations. So with kind of the lights going into the forest, and then the kind of changes in water patterns within the project area, there's the potential that it's a decline kind of in the bat population with kind of an increase perhaps in groundwater in places, might have that sort of effect on mosquito populations.
Just to give I guess a general type of response to that, a lot of different wildlife can be impacted by light at night, and that's part of the whole dark skies premise. You want to be as natural with your lighting and directional. Bats, birds, moths, a number of different flying types of species can be impacted. So we are trying to minimize any potential impact by mimicking the warm tones of the lights and not having the blues and the cold, and also minimizing the scattering of the light. And based on what we've seen tonight, there's very little light spillage off the road where the shields are present. So it's definitely something that we're concerned about, and that's why we've been, spending so much time and asking these questions. But it's certainly a point well taken.
Yeah, and it's, I think in addition to being sort of a habitat question, also sort of a public question for people who kind of use the area around the school.
Yes. Anything else? Okay, I do see another hand raised. Paul, please name and address for the record.
Yeah, good evening, Paul Rybicki, 152 Parker Road, Wakefield. My suggestion would be to be very specific with the developer in asking, could we require them to provide 590 nanometer wavelength light, which is considered the best light wavelength for wildlife?
Oh, really? That's interesting.
And can you convert that into Kelvins?
I'm a project manager, but it can be done very quickly by the incumbent. I do not know, but I can tell you that it's considered, most people who are looking at wildlife lighting right away jump to that wavelength.
Right, and
500
that's where the 3000 range Kelvins also comes into play.
Kelvin is definitely the color temperature of the light.
Yeah.
But I'm specifically stating from a wildlife standpoint that the industry, looking at it, when you go to put it Arcadia National Park, and when you go to put it in very important spots with wildlife, most people are very clear that lighting experts are always looking at 590 nanometer light. So
Okay.
I don't know, Josh, could you tell me what 590 nanometers is in Kelvin?
Josh, this is Kevin. Please don't entertain this type of questions from the general public. These need to be put in writing and would need to come through the chair, please, Mr. Romano. I just find that this is starting to get off topic. Is we have professional engineers that have designed this layout. We're going to be thoughtful and complete in our responses to the Concom. But I don't know. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm sure you have good intentions, but you're not the designer. We're going to present a package of lighting, as we said. We've done the photometrics as you requested. We're going to improve upon our lighting information, but I do not think it's proper to have our engineer going back and forth converting and doing lighting design with the general public.
Can we get the specifications for that when we get the?
I get you everything you need, Bob, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, if you can provide that, please do for the next meeting. Judy, you have a question.
I just had a question about the request for written questions. I understand then it gives them time to prepare, but it is a public meeting and there's always some back and forth. So I'm just wondering, that's not going to be stopped, is it? Because that's certainly an important part. Preparation is
No.
important, but
No, we will continue to allow the public to ask questions, providing they are pertinent to the topic at hand. And again, we can provide the minutes with the questions that have been raised to the applicant. But as I had said before, sometimes it's difficult to anticipate, questions in advance. Until you start talking about it, more things come up and then you have more questions. But no, we will allow questions that are pertinent and relevant. All right.
Mr. Chairman, just very quickly to Kevin's point, we're very much so hoping to wrap up this process soon. And we're hoping to know which there's, without exaggerating, been, hundreds of public comments and questions. And we'd like to know which of those the Conservation Commission requires responses on. And the requests regarding, prior to the meeting, anything out of, that we could follow up on was just to get us to that finish line, right? So that's not asking you to look into a crystal ball and provide the questions in writing that people haven't asked yet, but we need Concom to tell us what are the open ends. It is more of our point there.
Yeah, understood. And we did have a list Rebecca had put together. And we have come up with more tonight ourselves on top of that list that we didn't think of prior. And of course, there have been questions from the public that have been raised too.
In
So, yeah.
DRA, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we could say the project team is hopeful that the next meeting is our last one. Am I wrong?
Well,
Dave, Vlad,
There's
Carl?
always hope,
Well,
but they'll be getting a
well,
good
hold
deal of
on.
information 5 days before the hearing. So
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get our package out when we say the last meeting, not as abruptly, please. What the desire is that we've answered all the questions, we've provided numerous iterations of the same answers to questions, and that we hope that you've gathered enough information to be able to start your decision-making process. I don't think we meant to say that we're looking for a decision next Tuesday night. But again, we certainly have, I think, we've talked about lighting before. We get questions, we provide more information, we get questions about the road. We show a profile, we get asked for another profile. And we're happy to keep doing this, but there has to be an end in sight. Time, as you're learning on your Wakefield High School project, time is money. We have to beat this current terrible economic climate that we're operating in every meeting. It does cost us this project, valuable project dollars.
Yeah, understood. And we're gonna have questions that, we need answers for. Cannot predict, when we will reach that point where we feel we have enough information. And that's why we're here, asking these questions.
Okay, you have no feeling, Mr. Chairman, and when you might be ready for that? I mean, we submitted in September.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate. Judy, do you still have your hand raised, or is it a different question?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm all set. Thank you.
okay. Christine, same with you. Was your hand still raised, or do you have an additional question?
No, I just have I do have a question about what David presented and these new figures. I definitely appreciate the comments about can we, have questions compiled, but if we're just seeing figures for the first time at the Conservation Commission meeting, we have new questions. I mean, the figures that David showed earlier, we haven't seen before. So we're also trying to understand that and be part of the process in a legitimate way, forwarding our questions to the Conservation Commission, and hopefully that they'll also feel that they're important questions to relay to you. But, there's a new plan set coming. So we want to have a chance to look at that and formulate our questions and be part of this process. So there's new materials. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the first time we did see the photometric plan with this detail. So it certainly has raised, additional questions after seeing it. And again, I think, it's a well thought out plan. So that's that. Any commissioners have any other questions regarding the photometric plan?
Bob, I guess I would suggest, I know you asked for the specifications for the lights, but I guess since the gentleman raised the issue with the longer wavelength, responding to that question, whether or not that longer wavelength, it makes sense in this situation. Just to answer that question.
Yeah, we had asked if they could provide the wavelength information to us. Is that what you're referring to, Teresa?
Yes, but also answering the question whether or not this is shown to be the most beneficial to wildlife. Answering that question.
Okay.
I guess maybe that's where I would say, could someone send us at least a link or whatever literature that came from? So we could maybe start on second base. I mean, maybe it's something LEC knows off the top of their hand, but I think this is the things that we're kind of like trying to, we're trying to be responsive, but also, I don't know where that 590 comes from, and if we can maybe get a little direction on that, that would be great, instead of spinning
I can
our
try
wheels
to
trying
find
to.
that. Dave, I can try to find that because I've seen that before as well.
All right.
No, and that's a fair question, Dave.
Yeah,
I-
I'll try to find that. and send it along.
Again, it's just, if we can start on second base of any of these, it really kind of helps us along. I don't think anyone wants to be talking about, talking about this for forever. So, and I don't want to cut anyone off, but we had a couple other just basically updates that we're going to walk you through.
Yeah, we've had similar discussions in the past, and I think there's something that says that animals, I think, don't see wavelengths after that, or it's more wildlife friendly.
That's correct. A lot of wildlife can't see the 590 around 2200 Kelvin.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of research. All we're saying is look at the best practices. It takes you 30 seconds to Google it, and it'll tell you what the best wavelength is.
Yeah, we had a dark sky presentation last year, and that was one of the things that was talked about during that presentation with us, along with the, color of the light spectrum.
Yeah. So if Rebecca can send us that presentation, that would be great. That'd be
okay.
That kind of gets us there.
All right. All right. Actually, there is another hand raised. Bronwyn, did you just raise your hand, or am I just noticing that it's been up?
No, I raised it just very, very quickly. Paul is correct. It's the red and amber lights that are not perceived by animals. And someone did mention the warmer tones, but they need to be quite a bit warmer than the white and the blue tones to have a less of a negative effect on the animals. So Paul is correct. It's the amber and the red wavelengths that the animals cannot detect as easily. Thanks.
Right. Thank you. And in the color, again, it's in the 3,500 Kelvin range is what we've also been talking about. So, all right. We're going to move on to the next topic. David, did you have something additional you wanted to cover next?
I believe it was really just for the
trees. Yeah, the tree
trees.
removal.
Okay.
David, I have an L101, the color coded plan. This one kind of shows, the areas of trees that we're looking to protect versus some of the trees that obviously will need to be removed due to the road going in there. These trees were surveyed by LEC, so we brought those into CAD. The ones in the green are the trees that we are going to protect and save. So we will have tree protection fencing that goes out to the drip line to protect, the trees so they don't get cut down, but also to protect their roots. And then obviously the trees in the red will be removed. I'll defer to LEC on the exact species and kind of layouts of the various trees that are in there. But we did a good job of trying to protect as many of the trees as we can along wetland 1. And as we pulled the road away from wetland 1, we got into that knob kind of, I guess, on the south side of the sheet. Obviously, we need to take a lot of those trees out because we are cutting into that knob, so to speak, to get the roadway in there. So these are all called out on our site preparation plan with tree protection fencing. We have a detail for that. So these are just the trees that we are.
Josh, is there I see that you have a lot of the green trees that you're gonna try to keep to provide canopy to wetland number 1.
Yep.
But to the extent that there aren't trees that are between the road, like going to the edge of all those green trees, going to the right edge. What about will there be, just keep, keep going to the right. Yeah, keep going a little bit more to the right. Yeah, like in that area there. Is that, I mean, I guess I'm interested in making sure that there either is a canopy, a full, as much of a full canopy as possible to the wetland. And if there's not, then there's a plan to, to put plantings in to get a canopy as quickly as possible. And I don't know, I mean, I guess what I'm asking you is, it's hard to tell with those green trees, whether there is going to be could you just go pull out a little bit, so I can see the whole wetland. Will there be, I mean, that's the southern edge of that wetland. And I guess the question I have is, does the part on the right side mean that there's not going to be any trees between the road and the wetland?
That's not the case. These trees that are on here are just the physical trees that were surveyed by LEC that that we have.
Peter, just through the kind of the process, why these trees are shown and not the other ones is our original layout had the road pushed farther to the north, right? And when we did the site visit to kind of reconcile the layout, we identified these as trees that we adjust the layout for them to keep. Now, beyond, I don't have an answer for you, but the area to the right, we weren't in, so we weren't touching that. So if there's trees there, they'll stay there.
Okay.
And we can go out and confirm that.
Okay.
What is there? And I think your point is, if there's nothing there, can it be augmented?
And my point is that a 25-foot buffer zone is sort of, in my mind, is the bare minimum. And if it means that for one reason or another, there is a canopy, there is a canopy now, but there won't be a canopy when this is done, then that has to be addressed. Because I think on the southern edge of a wetland, there needs to be a canopy, or at least plantings that will put a canopy in place as quickly as possible, to the extent there is one right now.
So we can look at that area, but the absence of the green trees over there was just because the road was never over there, so we weren't into that area. Yeah.
But how would we know that there is a plan that would be I mean, I guess what I'm asking is how do we have confidence that there's a strategy for putting in the best possible canopy that can be put in, given that there's only a 25-foot buffer zone across that, and that I think a canopy is important, because I think that's important for the southern edge of a wetland.
So we'll look at that area.
Okay.
To see what's there.
And David, you are showing, correct me if I'm wrong, are you showing the limit of brook line there too? If you zoom in on that area you boxed in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see, it's very close to the road. Yeah. So we won't be in there. So
okay.
What I think I'll go up when I see is that there'll be existing canopy trees that we're not impacting. And again, that was just a function of these green ones were ones that
you saved as a result of your change, and I understand.
Right. And then we weren't in that area before, so we didn't go out and mark those.
I totally get it, but I do think
I get what you're looking for, so we can look at that and give you some idea what's there. And
I appreciate that. Okay, I appreciate that.
David, the trees in red, will those be marked in some way that they are coming down, as opposed to those that will not be touched?
I think it's the other way around, isn't it, Josh? Like, you mark the ones that you are keeping.
I've done it both ways. A lot of times you'll mark out, hey, we're taking these ones down, or let's keep, or both. Red spray paint to remove and green spray paint to keep. Generally, once we have a roadway alignment, I would recommend that we go out and somehow mark the trees that we want to keep, just so the contractor then knows, hey, these are the trees we're keeping. We need to protect them. We'll put our refer back to our detail of our tree protection, and they can go on their merry way of protecting those trees.
And your sample conditions that you sent us, thank you very much, Rebecca, walks through. And I can't remember it, soup to nuts, but there's basically like limit of work and erosion control staking, a meeting to walk through, approve that, a meeting before, to approve, marking which trees will be taken down, and that's approved, so this, you have benchmark steps for this work in your conditions, or in a past condition was for I forget which one she sent me, but it was a pretty, and it's fairly basic in what we would generally expect to do.
Correct. Yeah, and I think also, Dave, during that time when we stake these out, here's the limit of work, here's erosion control areas, there might be a tree that's, let's say it straddles that line, and we say, oh, do we keep it? Do we remove it? We have we have some kind of leeway that, yeah, maybe we can work around this nice tree, let's keep it. Or yeah, it's a big tree, but it's dead, something like that. We can kind of work on that. That's part of kind of the walkthrough with the commission.
Which I think is the point of the walkthrough, right? Like
Correct. Right. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, typically we either mark the trees staying or we mark the trees not staying, but I do like the concept of marking both, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah, it's a lot of trees. I think there's 100 and some odd trees, 108 or something like that, that are shown between the reds and the greens in here. So I don't know what's easier, or what's a better way to quickly determine.
This is Dan from LEC. We've individually flagged all of the trees. You can go out there, the commission can go there today and see they're color coded. So you can see, we'll make sure it corresponds to the current limit of work, but there's red and black hatched flagging on all the trees to be removed, and then a light green color on all the trees to remain. So you can actually see that anytime you walk out there.
Excellent.
Thanks, Dan.
That answers that question.
Yes.
So yeah, just getting back to the limit of work line we are showing on this plan.
Yeah.
That will need to be updated and to kind of really coordinate with the current kind of layout roadway design as far as the amount of limits of work. And then also, I think, Dave, we might want to jump to my next L101, the black and white 101. And we touched a little bit on this earlier. So
yeah,
these red areas here are areas of invasive species that LEC has found. So we have two, well, actually there's 3 areas, but there's 2 that were surveyed. So these kind of areas that are highlighted, there's a variety of invasive species that LEC has found in there. We're recommending to remove these invasive areas. They are within the 25-foot buffer zone in some instances, and for most part, they're within the 100-foot riverfront area. So if the commission is okay with removing those, obviously we would adjust our limit of work line to include these areas. It says, yes, we're going to do some work in there. We're not building a road. We're not, doing any hardscape. It's more just kind of invasive species mitigation.
Do you have a list of what those species are and what the plan would be and how you'd go about removing them?
This is kind of where me and LEC need to kind of tag team a little bit on this. I believe they have a list and an idea of what the typical invasives that they find in these areas, and I would defer to them on the types of, is it straight physical mechanical removal? Is it mechanical with spot treatment of herbicides? I defer also to the Conservation Commission to what types of removals that they like to see within their resource areas.
Yeah, it would depend on the species, where it is, and a number of factors. Obviously, we don't want a piece of heavy equipment going in there doing more damage potentially to get to them, right?
Yep. No, I believe our intent is this is labor, guys with a shovel, or I would say people with a shovel or a pickaxe, hand hand tools, I don't believe we're recommending for this particular area, this instance right here, of driving heavy machinery, you know, stump grind and things like that, excavate them out. It would be more of a hand tools and a low impact.
Yeah, so we definitely want to know what species are present and what the plan would be before, you know, going ahead and doing anything.
Okay. And then there's another area, Dave, if you want to kind of pan back down. This area is right in the middle of the road. So obviously, as we build the road, we would have heavy machinery kind of coming through here. So we would rely on, you know, machinery to clear out the invasives just due to general overall site clearing. This little area in the blue right here, this is kind of outside of our limit of work. It is an area that was flagged as invasives that are in there. You know, we would recommend removing the invasives from this particular area. Now, I don't know if we can get a, you know, as if there's a machinery that can stay in the disturbed area where we're putting the road, can they reach over with a bucket or something like that and do the invasive kind of removal that way, potentially. But this would be an area that we would recommend removing invasives from. Now, if we go ahead and remove the invasives, we're going to have kind of a hole, let's say in the canopy there. This particular area in the blue, we would recommend infilling back in with some sort of wetland habitat supporting species of either some shrubs, maybe some small trees, and a seed mix to kind of help stabilize the ground plane. That's kind of the intent on there.
Yeah, it might require, you know, Rebecca to take a walk out there with you or somebody else and look out exactly what it is and what the best approach would be.
And then the last area that I have in here in green, these are areas that we are proposing to kind of restore or bring back with some more wetland supporting species. Right here, there's an existing trail system that you can kind of see on the survey. It kind of loops on the west side of this wetland too, I believe. Looks like the trail goes through the wetlands and then it continues back on down towards the east. Now the trail eventually, as it currently, the road is going to intercept this trail. So this trail is just going to dead end right in here. This is the reason why we're highlighting these particular areas in green, as we would just like to restore them to kind of a woodland habitat. There's no need for a trail there. The trail doesn't go anywhere. So we could infill this back in with some wetland type of plants.
A maybe clearer example would be the pull-off area in front of the existing gate, which we talked about just today.
Yep. Currently, you know, I think when you guys have gone out there, you've probably pulled off and parked in this little kind of turnout area. There's some guardrail. There's a little kind of probably gate access in there. So we're proposing to remove that metal guardrail and the gate system, pull that out. But if we go ahead and we remove some of the invasives in the red there, this kind of area in the red and also in the green, we would recommend kind of restoring to a woodland type of nature with either some small trees, few trees, maybe some shrubs and a ground seed mix to kind of help restore this area, kind of close it off also. So it's not kind of the open kind of, I guess, entryway into the current forest. That would be kind of our recommendation.
You could pause there for 1 second. Is this a good time? Okay. From what I understand, this area that you're showing right here, this is going to be a roundabout. I was told that today. I think you guys are aware of it.
I'm not sure who told you, Rebecca, that this was going to be a roundabout. This is not part of our project scope and budget agreement. Is not a fundable source through the MSBA, and it's not on our property, so we're not putting in a rotary. And
I was told by
we've had this discussion with the town.
Yeah, Bill Marno told me that today. He came up to ask me some questions about how it would be permitted.
Yep. So there is no, in our project scope and budget, project funding agreement, nor do we have the ability to work in the towns right away.
Do you know if they're planning on taking any portions of this lot in order to convert it to their town right of way?
I don't, again, land takings aren't part of any MSBA process or the district's intent to take any land. That's why, part of the reason why it's not part of our project. That would be a town project is my understanding.
Okay, I'll find out more information and I guess we'll have to report back on that at the next meeting.
So
So-
these are, this sheet just kind of shows where the invasive species that we would suggest removing and infilling in with more native species. These two areas. I deferred back to Dan from LEC on, if he wants to kind of chime in on the typical invasive species that they've found that are present. And he wants to
Sure.
expand
I'll
on.
chime in there. It's a pretty straightforward, typical list of, buckthorn and bittersweet and honeysuckle, things like that. And there's nothing like, Japanese knotweed that would need intensive herbicide or garlic mustard. It's all things that we feel can be managed by, hand tools or minimal mechanical means. So I think the intent is to try to avoid using herbicides, being so close to the wetlands, and replant with whatever native shrubs and trees are right around that vicinity. But we'll certainly provide a more detailed list and an invasive species, management plan with sequencing and all that and monitoring.
Right. Rebecca, would you like to see those areas with somebody from LEC prior to them submitting a plan?
Sure.
Or any of the commission or any of commission members for that matter? It sounds like they're smaller, you're not talking trees here, you're talking vines and small caliper type invasives.
Yeah, Rebecca, I can meet you anytime this week or next, whenever you can meet me there. We can do it fairly quickly.
Okay, we can coordinate.
Great. And again, anybody else that wants to join, Rebecca could send out a note to let us know when that is. Okay, any other questions concerning the invasive species removal or revegetation plan?
Dave, do you want to show them that SHT1 plan? I believe that's from LEC. That might have a little bit more.
Do I have, is it,
Yeah, I see it on your tabs up top. Restoration
what?
area, sheet number 1. It's kind of right
Over
in to the left.
To the
Keep
left
going.
where it says site plan, sheet 1 and 2.
Yeah,
right
that
there.
one. Yeah, let's go to
sorry,
1.
got too many tabs open.
Oh, this is fine. So this is just a nicer plan that LEC provided. So you can see in the magenta here are kind of the invasive areas. And the green are some potential areas for enhanced buffer areas, enhanced buffer plantings that we could kind of help fill in.
Yeah, so this is the type of material we use as a guide in developing the final plans.
Yeah.
And where we try to nail down the limits of work and disturbed areas and things like that.
Yeah, we'd
Or
be looking
sheet.
for a planting plan on what, the revegetated areas would, be including too.
Yeah, eventually on my planting plan in these specific areas, we would either hash these out and just kind of give a list. We maybe label them. I don't know the best way to describe them, but let's say it's this one area to the west of wetland 1. We would, we're going to remove invasives here with some sort of language on how we do that, and then potential replanting, and we'd give a list of plant species and some seed mixes, that we were proposing to install in this area. Kind of how we would present that back to you.
Actually, yeah, I could see in the note, the high bush blueberry, spice bush, witch hazel.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's just kind of a first kind of stab at a plant list, but I think the plant species are appropriate for kind of what's existing out there. There's a lot
Right.
of oaks and white pines out there, so kind of trying to marry in with your existing vegetation
Right.
makes sense.
Okay.
And then I think I guess the only other piece I think we had, or we're going to discuss tonight, and my folks correct me if I'm wrong, was maybe amphibian barrier.
Correct. Yep.
Hey, sorry, Josh, before we move on, I think there may be a question regarding the invasive species management or vegetation plan. Linda, I see your hand up.
Yes, Linda Ireland, Melrose. I just wanted to have another look at the Series 2 wetland there. If we could just zoom in a little bit. So that entire boundary where you along the edge of the road, that was vegetated, and there was actually a red maple that was pushed over by the test equipment. And that should be revegetated because this pool supports breeding spotted salamanders, American toads, and spring peepers. And the characteristics of this pool have been changed just by the test pit equipment.
This plan shows up and back from early December, limit of work, but the current plan has space just along that edge of wetland 2, and we certainly will revegetate that to the fullest extent we can. That green polygon to the right, that's another bare spot where the existing trail is. We would be revegetating that. So essentially any areas where we can fit in native plants where there's bare gaps in the canopy, we'll certainly be specifying to plant native trees and shrubs in all of those areas, especially, as close to the edge of the wetland as possible.
Dan, can you ensure that that edge along the roadway that will be revegetated is included on the next, set of plans?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, Dave, when we show the wildlife barrier, we'll have a better picture of that, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted me to share that or if you have you have that.
Oh, if you want to take over, I'd be happy.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So this next, what I'm about to show this is one of the comments from BSC regarding potential wildlife mortality. And so what we've proposed is this area, the topography is going to be pretty much close to the existing grade here, and it's right, we're right between 2 wetlands. So we have the wildlife crossing to the right here, but what we're proposing in this yellow shaded area is a barrier that's going to connect seamlessly from the wing wall of this crossing and go right along the edge, all of kind of the logical low spots where all of those amphibians might be likely to cross, over to wetland 1. So what this is going to do is force them, it's going to keep them from getting, crossing the road and prevent road mortality. So this would force them to basically go this direction and funnel them through this crossing. And the same idea would be on this side. If they're trying to migrate from this wetland across here, they would be forced to kind of funneled and go through this crossing. Once you get up into here, we could potentially run it all the way to the road, but I think all of this kind of bare blasting rock habitat is not going to be as appealing for those migrating amphibians. So I'll show you a detail of kind of what we had in mind for this barrier. It's a plastic fence. It's meant to be permanent, so it's high, high durability. This is just an example out in California. This is used for the California tiger salamander to exclude them from a landfill site. And it's a company called Animex Fencing. And we would propose to run this fencing along both sides of the roadway in these yellow shaded areas. I'll show you a detail of what this fencing would look like. So this is the side where the animals, so this, for example, is wetland 2 would be over here. Animals leaving there would hit this fence. And you can see this is the grade. So part of it would be buried 8 inches under the grade, and then there's a little lip that hooks out, so it would keep them from tunneling under. And then there's going to be a 22-inch. There's different sizes. This is one I thought might make the most sense. There would be a 22 inches of fence above ground. So certainly none of those, the American toads couldn't hop up above that, and things like spring peepers, which could climb up fences. There's like a little lip up here at the top, which prevents, hinders them from getting over as well. So we would have this fencing installed along these areas, and so
what's that made out of again?
It's HDPE plastic.
Okay.
Which is recyclable and often made of recycled materials. So it's not like a PVC or anything, it could be leaching chlorine or anything.
Right.
So that's, we haven't installed this personally, but this seems like a perfect fit for this situation. It is durable. It could withstand, weed whacking and probably, snow being pushed up against it. So that's what we had in mind for, and as you can see, that the idea is seamlessly, like I mentioned, it ties right into this crossing. So if animals somehow get in there, they would have to migrate way towards Farm Street, which we feel would be, be less likely. There'd be fewer amphibians coming and going from that direction anyway because of the road being there. So I think this is a reasonable approach, and this shows kind of that gap where there's going to be room for plantings in between. So the barrier would be pushed up as far away from the wetland as possible, so we could fit more restoration plantings along the wetland itself.
I'm wondering if it would make sense to put a small, say, 24-inch concrete pipe or something under the road right there also between those two wetlands.
Exactly.
I think there's the underground storage system for the drainage, so I don't think it's possible.
I don't think we have the elevation either.
Yeah.
To do it without having to dig out in the wetlands.
Because you're very close to grade there, right?
You're right. We brought the road down very close so that we could minimize the impacts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've been out there in the last couple of storms, and right where you have that arrow is where the water crosses from the wetland. So from this blue outlined area, the water coming down the hill, yes, comes to there and then crosses these two yellow lines heading towards that white arrow. So how would you, what's going to happen to the water? Is it going to try to go uphill and go to this other crossing, or how do you figure what are you going to do about the water that's flowing on the wetland side on this blue outline side of the road? Where is it going to go? Because it does overflow this outlined area, and it outflows across the road that's there now into wetland 1.
So what we're working to do is match what's flowing to wetland 2 now in the built condition. So not cutting it off or directing it, trying to maintain the stasis there. And then if 2 was to overflow, it would cross through the wildlife crossing.
So it's going to go uphill.
We will make sure like it's fairly level. So again, not to like drain the wetland, but to I think the grades there. I mean, that's I think what we were looking at yeah, it's fairly level. So we make sure we can direct it to 2, and then if 2 overflows, it will overflow, which means, the water rises and it will go through the culvert
Yeah.
to 1.
And then it's gonna flow along the other side and head over to the wetland one.
Yep.
Okay, the only problem with that is wouldn't it be better to do it on the other side of this blue outline so that it's gonna always receive the water it was supposed to? Rather than cutting it off and bypassing that one segment?
I don't think I quite follow you.
Well, the outline blue area, right, is a wetland. It fills up with water and it overtops and goes across the street, across the proposed roadway. But if you cut the water off up by this crossing, you're gonna take it away from the water that would go into this blue outlined area. Is that right?
So in the existing condition, almost all the water that feeds to comes from the south, from the offsite area. If we, on that map that we looked at earlier,
Yeah,
and so when we give you the drainage maps next week,
right.
in both we've done a good amount of like field work out here to kind of get the divides as well.
Right.
Almost all the water for 2 that contributes to 2 comes from the south.
2 being the outlined blue area.
Yeah, yep, the one on this, yep, that one right there.
But I see it running down this hill, going right into the blue area.
Down the hill from the
Unless
south.
I'm in the wrong spot.
I believe there's kind of a natural rise right up in here, so.
Yeah, and it goes over it too.
So again, when 2 overflows, it will still make its way to 1 with the culvert.
I'll check it out
Might
again,
not-
but I mean, I think it's a good idea because I think you have to do something there. But I'm not sure that either I've got the wrong area or I'm not explaining myself.
No, I think you've brought this up before, and we're trying to be really careful about it and document it, and then we'll provide some clear backup on what we think what the delineations for these different areas are, again, per wetland, and what they are in the future and how they'll all work to tie in to kind of answer your concerns. So I don't want to, we understand your concern, and we're working to make sure it's clearly addressed, so that you can visually see like what we're doing, what goes there now, what goes there in the future, and how it's going to work, and why we feel it's it's a mitigation.
That would be great. I'm going to send you a picture of the water coming down into that area, so that eventually, so that you can make sure we're talking the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, David, I would say just confirm the grades through there, and if there is a slight rise, maybe there's something small that can be put
Okay.
under the road.
We can look at it. It might be farther to the maybe a little to the west, but we can
Yeah.
dial in. I was trying to look on my second screen. Just again, if it's something we can easily do, we'll look to address it.
Okay.
Sorry, it looks like I'm 2 inches from the camera, but I'm looking at my screen. Okay.
Brom, do you have a question concerning this? I see your hand raised.
Yes, I do. Bronwyn Delaval, B8 Cyrus Street. Yeah. Could you please pull up the last slide that you were showing with the fencing? Yeah, thanks. Is there any way to zoom in just a teeny bit? Oh, okay, great. Now, thank you. The bottom circle, the blue circle, is that just wetlands, or has that been designated vernal pool?
This is an isolated, non-jurisdictional wetland that does not meet the criteria for certification as a vernal pool under the state guidelines.
Okay, and who determined that?
Well, I believe during the ANRAD process, the peer reviewer confirmed, or that was their opinion. They looked at it and specifically said there was only one certifiable vernal pool during their peer review of with the ANRAD.
Oh,
So-
okay. And that's in the information on the Conservation Commission website. Is that correct?
I'm not sure that that's, all in the record during the ANRAD procedure. There's probably a peer review report by Oxbow Associates that has their findings that's probably available.
Thank you. Just so that I'm clear on what I'm looking at, can you give me some directions on this north, south, east, west?
So this is north goes this way.
Okay,
And
Okay.
Farm Street is to the left.
right. Okay. All right, that's good. What does the research say about the leaching from the AMX fencing?
As far as I know, my research on HDPE plastics, there is leaching is not a concern.
Is that from longitudinal studies? Do you know?
No, I mean, we could certainly look into that for you.
Yeah, I think that might be a serious concern. We'd need a longitudinal study to see if there isn't any potential toxic leaching from the materials used, particularly because it's recycled plastic. Also, what has your research shown about the amphibian populations after the fencing has been installed? What impact does that have on the amphibious population?
So I guess through the chair, I'm not sure how you want us to address these questions.
I would like to. I mean, maybe the Concom would
So-
be interested in knowing this because we're dissecting that habitat, and I'm concerned if there's a barrier to the obligate species there. Is there enough equitable wetland on the far side of the barrier?
You
The
said
east
far
side of the barrier for them to breed? So if they can't cross the road there to get to where the blue circle is there equal breeding ground for the obligate species?
When you say equal, Bronwyn, are you saying square footage or?
No, I'm
acreage?
sorry. Environmentally equal so that it's suitable for obligate species to breed. If they can't reach where they're used to breeding, is there something on the east side of those barriers for them to breed? That's what I'm concerned about. If they're blocked from breeding in the wetlands, in the blue circle, is there something on the other side of the road where they can breed?
So there's wetlands on both sides of the roads. This particular one is a non-jurisdictional wetland, which I believe there's been evidence of breeding already potentially in that area. But is your question, I'm still, I guess, not clear on the question. Can they cross to breed on the other side?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not being clear. You see where the white arrow is?
Yes.
If species, particularly obligate species that need to breed in standing water, are unable to cross those yellow line barriers, is there adequate breeding environment for them on the side of the road where the white arrow is? Where they're coming from to
So
breed.
just to be clear, those barriers are directing them to the crossing being provided to get to the other side, right?
Right. Right.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
so since I cannot get over or under those
Right.
HDPE barriers, they would be
Yes.
forced to move to either end to cross. But we also, I did raise the question, is there a possibility of putting a pipe under the road near that white arrow or somewhere in the general vicinity to facilitate the crossing?
That would be highly preferable.
And
Thank you
that's-
very much.
And
I
that's
don't
something
think
the
they have the
applicant,
height to do that. I don't
right,
think they
we
have
don't
the
know,
height.
but there is a potential higher spot somewhere in this area. So there may be an opportunity, but they're gonna look at that for us.
But Bob, why couldn't they move the crossing down so that we just need one crossing instead of the two?
I mean, the more crossings, the better, right?
Well, I mean, if they put it right where the white arrow is, it would solve two problems, wouldn't it? It would get them.
You're not
to
gonna
walk-
get, yeah, but you're not gonna get the 4-foot clearance or whatever for your mammals.
No, you're not
in
gonna,
that
you're
area.
not gonna, the grade there is almost level. Bob.
Correct.
It's
That's why
almost
we
level.
need the, up to the northern end, the larger height crossing for larger mammals, for sure, and everything else for that matter, but you're definitely not gonna get that type of clearance where that arrow is. But maybe you can get
Well-
something.
Well, Dave, how did you figure out where to start and stop this barrier? And
So I tied it into the wing walls of this crossing, so that, to make that seamless. And then I ended it where all of this, where the blasting is going to carve out, it's going to be kind of more bare, exposed rock, which amphibians are less likely to cross through. So that seemed a reasonable endpoint.
yeah. Okay, so you're trying to pick up the extreme the biggest area you can.
Yeah, I mean, this is in response to concerns we've heard about, like the,
No, I think it's I think it's really legitimate because I think this is an important breeding area. Excuse me, from what I've seen so far. But I just I see the water crossing the road there as it exists now, and yes, there is a slight hump in the ground, but the road where it's crossing is that gravel pathway there, and it looks like it's a road that the utility people use. But that's the area that I see it crossing over. And that area, that blue area does fill up quite a bit too. So I just think, in my mind, anyways, it looks like that would have been a better spot to just cross it with one spot. But I understand what you're doing.
and we can look into, again, I have to see what else we have going under there. I hear your concerns. We addressed, I think, similar concerns over at like Wetland 4, where we have like an overflow pipe.
Yeah.
So why I don't promise anything is because we need to look at it in detail, right? There's elevations, there's
Yeah.
ground, there's but I hear the desire, so we will look into it.
Where is the property line on the east side?
The red.
The red,
Red.
okay, yeah. Okay, I think you're on the right path. I definitely think that's an important area to deal with.
All right, we did have one more hand raised. Christine, do you have a question?
Not on the amphibian stuff. Oh, do you want to it was on the trees.
Okay, yeah, sure. What is it?
The question is the project subject to the Wakefield tree policy requiring replacement trees for those
Sure.
removed?
Jurisdictional trees would be.
Meaning the ones within the 100-foot buffer?
Yes.
So all trees within the 100-foot buffer will be replaced where?
It would be jurisdictional. We would have to get to a point where we talk about tree replacement or however it's going to be handled, but jurisdictional trees would certainly fall within the policy.
When would you get to that point?
I don't know exactly.
Before the vote, before the public hearing is closed?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, David, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No. We, I think that anyone on my side, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was what we had.
We
That's
will,
correct, David. That's all I had.
all right, we will forward a copy of the minutes, to you with the
Thank you.
questions that have come up.
And then I
Um,
think, yeah, Dan and Rebecca are gonna coordinate walking those other areas.
Right, and talk about the invasive species, the management of those, and the revegetation areas that are proposed. And Josh, you had talked about adding, or Dan, adding in that area along the road as a revegetation area near wetland 3.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're gonna look, at my, I'll talk to Dan, but the additional along one, what's going on in that continuation area beyond the trees that are shown in green.
Right. We'll take one final question. Bob Brooks, you have a question?
Yeah, just a couple probably very short questions. As far as that amphibian barrier, are there any of them around this area we could actually take a look at? Do you know of any?
None that I'm aware of, certainly not with this material that we're proposing, but but if anything, I'll see if I can reach out to people, but yeah, there's nothing that comes to mind, certainly right around Wakefield.
Or anything in the northeast or no? No, I mean.
We'll have to get back to you about that.
Okay, and the other, this actually did, and you could probably answer this question. I have walked that area many times and I've gotten confused because I've seen many of the trees with all different color tags on them. And I did notice some with red and black, some with green, some with blue. Is there a specific chart or definition of, what the meaning of those are? I honestly don't know all of it. It just looks like, well, these look like they're going to be taken down and these don't.
Yep, yeah, the red and black ones are proposed to be taken down, and the light green ones are the ones that Josh had shown earlier, on the red and green on his plan. The colors generally correspond to that. So the green ones are going to stay, the red and black ones are to be removed.
Yeah. And any other colors on any? I thought I saw some blue tags on some of the trees too.
Blue was the invasive species areas that we flagged.
Okay.
And then the wetland flags are orange.
Right. Yeah, those are the only ones I'm pretty much familiar with it. Sorry about that. I know it's a basic question, but I want to try and get as much information as possible. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to continue to January 17th. There is a bunch of questions we've asked and information that has been requested. Again, we will forward the minutes to you, and that should fill in some of the gaps in the questions. Josh or Dan, you'll coordinate with Rebecca to do a walk and look at the invasive species plan, locations, and the revegetation areas. All right, I think I've covered it all.
Are we waiting on a big slug of information next week coming our way? Is that correct?
Yes, if I can answer.
Yes, please.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you on January 17th.
Thank you. Everyone have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
All right. Um, Jim, I guess I'll turn it over to you.
How do we do this? Because Ken is gonna
I can
control
share
whatever.
the, yeah, you can introduce and I'll allow share video.
I'm going
Okay.
to turn my, I'm going to mute myself. Turn my video off. All right, Ken, it's all yours.
Jim, go ahead and.
Okay, I think we're gonna, is Christine here? Or the kids?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, so I don't know how you want to do this. We want to show a little video that that these teenagers put together, which I think is very professionally done. And it gives it expresses a point of view. Do you have them here that we could talk to them, or?
No, I'm not sure why they weren't able to attend tonight. So
Okay.
do you have the link to the video?
That's what we need Ken for. Ken, do you know how to do that?
I did not realize I would be playing the video. I will.
Not to put you on the spot, Ken.
Yeah. Hold on. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
No sound.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Still?
No sound.
Hold on, let me see what I can do. Oh, now?
Not yet, no. Okay, we got some sound.
Can you start from the beginning, please?
Okay, that's good.
I turn it off.
Yep, that would be good. Turn it off. So I think this is just really an example of what I would think most of us are fighting for as a conservation person in the town. I mean, it's a typical example of a forest, and I think it just shows what a forest actually provides for the community. And that's all I really, all I have to show is that. I don't know if there's any comments on it, but other than that, I'd say I hand it back to Bob.
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to say that I think without exception, everything that you saw in the film was taken on the forested area that is slated to be destroyed, except perhaps for the construction equipment pictures, but all of it and every species that you saw is up on the Forested Hill site called C3.
And in response to that, I think what I'd like to say is I'm using this as an example of what could happen to any forest, not just the Evoke, but any forest in Wakefield. And there's a few little kind of pocket forests in Wakefield that we should be as concerned about. The other thing, I just a comment for the two, I think it was two girls that did the video. I thought it was very well done. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I mean, as far as what the content and stuff like that, and I agree with Bronwyn, we don't need to see the machinery in there. I don't think that's necessary. But other than that, the other thing I wanted to mention was, I don't know if it was possible or if everyone thought it would be reasonable to put this on our website. But we can talk about that, just keep it in the back of your mind for now. Does anyone have anything to say, or can I turn this back to Bob? Okay, I guess, Bob, it's all yours. Kenny, you doing it? Yeah. Oh, he's on mute, I think, or something. Maybe he can't hear us. Hey,
All right, so
Bob.
do we have any
are you-
additional old business or any other topics?
Nope, we covered it earlier.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Jim,
Hi, yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
and I vote to adjourn. All right, good night, everybody.
Right.